Hello, welcome to our garden. This song is called The House That We Built. If I were to tell you you're not the only one, everyone is gone, moving around me. If I were to leave here and try out all alone, is it better on our own? I just need to sleep. Asleep, I'm losing my appetite in the house that we built. Sleep, let's flavor with every bite. It's on the house that we built. If I'm only dreaming the dream of every man, it's easy if you can try to get some sleep. Asleep, I'm losing my appetite in the house that we built. Sleep, let's flavor with every bite on the house that we built.
Thank you for joining us in the garden. This one's called Once Good.
Was it me? Something left unsaid, losing the race with the thoughts running round your head. If in time I'm more prepared, turn it all around. You must be tired of running scared. I've tried to lose you, shake you off, let it drop. I try to fight it, but don't know if I should. You know that we were once good. Don't try to hide it if you think that we should. You know that we were once good. Was it me? Something left unsaid, losing the race with the thoughts running round your head. If in time I'm more prepared, turn it all around. You must be tired of running scared. You try to lose me, shake me off, let it drop. I try to fight it, but don't know if I should. You know that we
1, 2, 3, 4.
Went outside again early morning. There's no time left with you apart. You say I'd never deserve you. I try to be light-hearted and true. No love, I sleep alone. Down what we once had. No hope, no love. I face alone. Place me down with your own hand. And I'm outside on the downside. To the garden, to the garden, to the garden. Went outside again early morning. Regret the time spent in the shade. Tied to anyone who will serve you. I guess we never got started. No, we never grew. No hope, no love. You sleep alone. I'll throw down what we once had. No hope, no love. I face alone. Place me down with my own hand. And I'm outside on the downside. Into the garden, 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 into the garden. That went better than expected.
Yeah, beautiful.
Very nice.
What did I do on my capo? Oh, it's here.
Tune up. Occasionally I look back to another time. Step over the low wall that keeps the divide. Everything I've lost is everything you gain. I'd really like to see you again. I won't be the last and you won't be the first. I want you to know I'm ready for us. You're always the best and I'm always the worst. I want you to know I'm ready for us. I went to meet her, drilled in the sea. When we arrived, I just had to leave. Everything I've lost is everything you've gained. I'll probably never see you again. I won't be the last and you won't be the first. I want you to know I'm ready for us. You're always the best and I'm always the worst. I want you to know I'm ready for us. Get up, get out as early as you can. Wanna get up as early as you can. Get up as early as you can. Gotta get up while we can. I won't be the last and you won't be the first. I want you to know I'm ready for us. You're always the best and I'm always the worst. I want you to know I'm ready for us. Ready for us. Ready for us. Ready for us.
1, 2, the 1, 2.
It's getting to the part at last. Closing down on you too soon. Now you made me blind. Sometimes I can feel the sun in my eyes. I can feel the sun in my eyes. Looking back on you, great view. Thoughts I had of you too. Now you may be blind sometimes. I can feel the sun in my eyes. 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 In my eyes. In my eyes. In my eyes. We've been the death of pop.
Thank you for watching.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode in this wonderful series we're doing over at First, where we get a variety of artists from a variety of different locations in, and they send their sets and we interview them afterwards. Today, my name's Sully, by the way, and today I'm joined with Angus and Ollie of the Death of Pop, a band from originally from the south coast of England. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're not
Good,
too bad.
thanks.
Yeah, so I'm going to jump straight in. Where I'm going to start is right at the beginning of your careers. So what first got you into making music?
Angus, you can tackle the start of it, and I'll tackle how we started working together.
I suppose what got me into starting making music really was sort of 4-tracking like old tape machines, basically, and sort of not really knowing any better, wanting to make sort of what I thought were like hi-fi recordings, but obviously turned out not to be. But at the time, like the idea that you could record one thing and then overdub onto something else, and then take all sort of 3 tunes and bounce them together. It was like a bit of a revelation. And this is sort of before, I could really do anything with a computer. So it was that was the kind of early years of trying to make some music. Was literally making music because I wanted to try and record myself and see if I could make something that was like barely listenable, which it turns out in hindsight, not a lot of it was, but at the time it felt like something that was really cool because you could have some mates over and you could make something and then make it.
You say that though, but we have actually managed to salvage a few backing tracks and like songs that are like a decade old, and repurpose them, like speed them up and overdub some stuff and package them as new songs.
That's true, actually. Yeah, we have been a bit lazy in some respects, like revisiting some of that stuff. But then it's got like a quality of its own. It's like over the years, it kind of, when you go back to it and you play it, it's like you can kind of you can hear something in it that maybe you didn't hear at the time, or like sort of spruce it up a little bit in terms of what you can do with a mix.
So how did you both meet?
We met working in a supermarket, actually.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. We met working at the Co-op, and on our Sunday shifts, we would both be sent to go and stack shelves, and we would chat about music. Well, that's where we, I don't know, realised that we both had similar interests, and we'd often get broken up by the manager because we were talking too much.
And why did you settle on the name The Death of Pop?
I suppose it's got quite a few different connotations. In terms of meanings, you could take it as the music that we're making is the best thing ever, and nothing can come after. But I think actually, like, where it comes from is well, Angus, you can probably explain it well. It's the idea that lots of music just eventually gets forgotten and goes to die, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it's I had the name. I think I was reading this this book called Retromania by Simon Reynolds, which I guess is a bit of a standard really these days. But I think I just wrote the name down on on the back of a notebook. I didn't really think about it for like years.
Yeah.
And when we were trying to come up with something, I was like, well, we really need a name for this band. We had like loads of weird names. I think at one point we were going to be called Traffic in Towns, based on like the sort of,
because we were really into town planning at the time.
Yeah.
based on like, we were basically going to have this band based on the traffic management of Elephant and Castle, and we were like, we can't call our band that. And then this name just sort of sprang up, and I was like, well, that'll do. And it's sort of to do with like the idea that you have all these like top 40 big selling songs, and they just all sort of end up like you don't even ever hear them really. That's kind of, if you go
I thought the way I interpreted it was that in a way you both were a bit disillusioned with contemporary music. I think that's how I, as a listener, interpreted it. But
I think right. I think we kind of also like, I think it's also sort of like a bit of a nod to the sort of like kind of ephemeral temporary nature of like any art or any music. It's kind of, it exists for a certain amount of time and then it obviously expires. I think it's like we kind of almost are sort of self-acknowledging the fact that what we're doing is a bit of a waste of time.
Well, I just also want to add that like
reassuring.
I guess it comes also with the fascination of like going into any charity shop and seeing stacks of old records that obviously must have sold some units, but are now just been relegated to I don't know, sitting unloved and unknown about on shelves. So
I think there is some like, I think it's weird that, isn't it? Because like I was hanging out with my parents the other day and they were going on about this band called Lieutenant Pigeon, who apparently had been like a top 40 band. I never heard of them. I listened to them. They were like absolutely mental. It's like kind of like instrumental piano music with whistling.
Yeah.
And this is like a band that like obviously sold a lot of units, but like you're not reading Pitchfork articles about the output of Lieutenant Pigeon. It's like just this idea that life's moved on from Lieutenant Pigeon. We don't need that anymore. But they must have existed at some point, and people would have bought their 45s. It's crazy.
And who are your creative influences? Any genres or artists in particular?
Lieutenant Pigeon.
Well, I suppose like when we started the band, we had like a particular I don't know, aesthetic or style that we were kind of half trying to emulate, which was broadly speaking kind of C86, indie pop, shoegaze, that sort of thing. But sort of just expanded to whatever it is we're particularly interested in. I think both Angus and I are really, really into, I don't know, songwriting, nice arrangements, tasty chords. So like,
Yeah,
there's a lot of like 60s influences,
Yeah,
which maybe don't come across like in I don't know, the production, because we're really bad at overproducing things and making it sound like a big 80s mess. But
yeah. When I've listened to your first album, 2013, what really stood out to me was, I think, definitely the influence I could see that you gathered from the shoegaze era, because immediately it definitely reminded me of bands like that I've been listening to, like Ride or Chapter House, or the Cocteau Twins. So I thought
Yeah.
that was quite a nice touch. Just
I mean, that's definitely stuff we're into. I mean, that the first Ride album was quite a formative album for me, I think, and then like the sort of Leave Them All Behind era stuff, and yeah, I mean, definitely, like, I think when we started, it was about sort of taking some of our shoegaze influences, and then you kind of I guess you expand those a little bit. But it was quite nice having people saying, "Well, this reminds me of that kind of stuff," because we really loved all that stuff. Also, a band called Lush, who I always feel are a little bit underrated in the shoegaze canon, but they were
yeah,
definitely a big
they did
influence
that
on us.
song Deluxe, didn't they?
That's a huge tune for us. I
Yeah,
mean,
that
like,
is. Yeah, it's a
Deluxe is a
great tune.
bit of a life-changing tune for me. I was like, wow, what's this? It's a lot of weird chord sequences. It's in, I think it's in 6/8 as well. It's like a shoegaze tune is 6/8. Imagine that. But yeah, it's good.
And
I think,
what? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
well, I was just going to say, I think also like a large part of it, like we produce everything, record and produce everything ourselves, and I guess it was quite a fun, just a quite fun thing to do, trying to emulate these sounds that we were hearing recorded and working out how to do it ourselves. And actually, when we listen back to some of those early mixes, they're just everything's just completely drenched in reverb, and you can barely hear anything. But I don't know. I think we just realised that it's easy to make things sound like big and massive, and to kind of cover up slightly uncertain vocal takes by just, like I say, covering it all in delay and reverb, and it sounds really nice.
And,
So yeah, but
we went to stop, did we?
yeah.
and what's your creative process like? Does one of you primarily do lyrics and the other instrumental, or do you both work on each?
I suppose Angus is primarily the songwriter, but generally for the most part, we do most of our writing when we're together. And quite often Angus will churn out a chord sequence that's really satisfying and intriguing, and then we'll, I don't know, just work on a top line melody together. And I don't know, it's generally pretty collaborative, I'd
Do you
say.
ever?
Yeah,
But as I said, because we tend to do we like to self-produce. The production side of things is just as exciting as the songwriting. So often the tracks will get written and arranged and recorded and evolved like in the first session. Like we tend to, when we're writing songs, generally it all happens very, very quickly, and we don't really like to overwork things, or when we do overwork things, they always turn out shockingly bad. So we try to keep things
Do you ever
try to keep things
do you
quick.
ever encounter many obstacles? So by the sounds of it, you don't really suffer much from writer's block.
We definitely have had periods of not having so much inspiration, but I think that comes from just stressing out too much about it and putting too much pressure on yourself, or also, like I say, overthinking the recordings, and I don't know, trying to chase perfection when in reality you're sat in your bedroom with a 20-year-old Tascam 4-track that's playing out of sync. And I don't know, you realize that the aspirations that you have, like, I don't know, you just have to set like a kind of set expectations and also do the best you can. We've got good at.
We used to stress out when we felt like we only had a certain amount of time to do something, like getting together, and like sort of the other stresses of life taking over a bit, and knowing that we've got a weekend to finish this tune, and we're kind of, you know, the luxury of time would have probably made everything a lot easier for us. I think there's this feeling sometimes that we've just got to get it done, because when are we next going to be hanging out? And you know, we both work full time, so it's like, when are we going to do it again? And I think sometimes it's just it's actually the excitement of being able to make some tunes, but then being like, oh, we're going to run out of time eventually, and then what we're going to do. And I think that used to be a bit of a factor in our sound, because we just had to get the songs done.
For sure. And I think the other hurdle we face is just, you know, it takes a huge amount of work just trying to balance all of the other shit that you've got to do, like trying to maintain a consistent social media presence, and so the most recent material we've been working on, it's just gone back to being me and Angus working as a duo, whereas for a few years we worked as a band, kind of writing and recording together, which was great. And I don't know, like obviously it's a like slightly different sound, but it's just another level of like kind of organization and stress, and you realize you're just spinning so many plates, whereas we've just sort of taken it back to basics, which is having a very short period of time together, and we just get as much done as possible and don't overthink it, have a lot of fun with it, and generally that seems to be when we're most productive.
And is there any one album that you're most proud of, or that has a special place in your heart?
Ooh.
Of our own, or in
Yeah. Yeah, of your own. Yeah.
because that Lieutenant Pigeon. Well, I guess actually, you know, like probably the 2013 or Runts, whichever one, like compilation. Like 2013 was just essentially a compilation of all of the singles that we put out, but that was just the first year of us doing a band. Basically every song we wrote, we put out and put up on the internet, and I don't know, it's quite a few good catchy songs on there.
I think it sits together quite well as like a sort of cohesive collection of stuff, because it's kind of like all recorded in the same room on the same kit, and it kind of all hangs together quite well. I think like sometimes you can make loads of songs, they all sound completely different. That's
definitely like the challenge we have, I think, because our just interests are fairly eclectic, and we have too much fun just, you know, writing or making songs in slightly different styles. And maybe one criticism you could throw out is that, you know, there's not always a, you know, consistent or coherent sound running through some of our records, but that's just because we enjoy doing too many things. So
a bit schizophrenic, I think, in terms of like what we want to do. Like one day we'll sit down and we're kind of like, let's really think about what it is our band sounds like, and then we'll sit down another time and we'll end up making like a kind of vaporwave tune, and we're like, okay, well that's another different sound. And then we went through a phase where we were quite sort of almost a bit kind of more like 80s kind of XCC kind of sound. So it's kind of like we just sort of jump about wherever we kind of want to go with it, which is, I guess, it's kind of worked out okay, really, because I think
in a way, I guess that's the best way, because it's quite natural. You're just kind of going with whatever flows, really.
Yeah, exactly. I think that now we've got to a point where we're like, okay, well, we'll literally just do whatever we want, because we've always got people that are quite receptive to it, which we're really grateful for. I guess it's nice that people listen to it. I guess if no one listened to it at all, we'd be like, okay, we're going really wrong here somewhere. We'll probably have to reevaluate the project.
But yeah, I think it's just about having faith and confidence in, you know, what it is that we're interested in doing, because I don't know, that's all you can do, really. And the times where we've like tried to be like too focused in on I don't know, trying to achieve something, you become a bit obsessive, or yeah.
Where does it stop? You can go on forever, can't you? And start like sort of worrying about really small details in your tunes, and you just never get them out, and then you kind of almost implode, really. I think what we've noticed is best just to sort of go with it and just put the stuff out, and then just use that as a kind of quality control. And if we put out something no one likes it, then at least we know that's not something we should be doing.
Going back to your question about particular releases, though, I also do really like. I'm like quite proud of Heads West, which was the EP we released a few years ago, primarily because it was like a recording that we did together as a band quite often, like I say, it's just us sat in a bedroom recording stuff. Whereas I don't know, that was our attempt to try and capture the sound of, you know, our live
It's good. It also
live unit.
It kind of sounds like our rhythm sections sound really good on it, I think, which is like we used to find quite hard to capture them sort of in terms of recording like at home. It was really good live, but we had a really good bassist and drummer, and they sound good on it, which was like kind of made it easier for us to mix it and sort of work on the tune, because we had a really like solid foundation as opposed to not being sure about what we were really doing and making it all in the studio. But that was all done on like an 8-track, so we had sort of limitations with it, and when we came to mix it, it was kind of quite straightforward as opposed to having
also
track.
with those tracks, we also like made sure that they were, you know, concise, short pop songs loaded with ideas, and the duration of that EP is relatively short. Whereas I don't know, it followed Fed Up, which was I don't know, I don't want to say bloated, but that was good because it was just us, you know, experimenting and learning loads about production and stuff like that. But yeah, Heads West was a refinement of, you know, our process and working as a band, and so I'm really fond of that one.
Have you ever considered collaborating with another artist?
I think we have I
mean, obviously you expanded as to a band, as you were saying earlier, but have you ever?
Chris Martin still hasn't returned my calls, but
yeah, have you ever just thought about perhaps featuring someone or just collaborating with someone else?
I suppose so. Like I say, we somewhere there exists a list of you know, people that we've got down as wanting to do guest vocals or to like sing some songs, but it's not something we've ever really pursued. I think I don't know, we've talked about our recordings have too many things going on them, and for the most part, well, when we play live we play as a 4-piece, and so there's been the talk of needing to expand the live band, and we've got some friends and musicians that we'd potentially want to come to play a bigger show with. But I don't know, in terms of collaborations, it's not something we've ever really seriously considered. I don't know about you, Angus.
Maybe at some point it'd be nice to do something with someone, but I don't know how that would happen. But yeah, I mean,
or how we'd convince them that it was a worthwhile.
Yeah, we certainly would. I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, yeah, definitely would be up for that.
I think what I really like about your music videos is it's clear that you both obviously put a lot of effort into producing them. For example, with ones like Once Good or Breathing. How do you decide which track deserves its own video?
Well, I suppose, you know, it's just if we think that a song is a single and we need to particularly push it, then that's how we settle on it. But it also just kind of comes down to when inspiration hits.
I think it's like there's a big sort of mood factor, isn't there? Because we'll be working on a tune, and one of Ollie will say, "Well, I've got this idea that imagine this," and then sort of describes like a video idea when we're sort of almost while we're mixing a tune. So kind of like whatever kind of song we feel like we've got something for can often sort of give us an idea of what we're going to do. With Breathing, it was like the song was crying out for like those kind of bruceless structures, and we talked about doing something like that because we were spending a lot of time sort of driving around London. So that was just obviously when we make an album, quite a big inspiration on us.
Well, with Breathing, I was living in southeast London, Angus was living in North London, and Rich, our bassist, was living in Harrow, so kind of way out West London. And we were doing lots of work, mixing and recording together, but doing huge journeys in a big circle, going to each other's houses. And so the kind of like tenuous link, or the thing that holds that video together, is just a montage of nice architecture that we were really interested in London, but it kind of traces the routes that we would be driving
I also
to
think
like see each other.
A lot of your videos, you really nail the indie aesthetic, I guess. I think it looks pretty cool, and I think a lot of the your listeners clearly really seem to enjoy it, as you have obviously a lot of positive comments on the videos, which is quite good. So
I suppose it's just because, you know, as with the music, the videos are all you know, self-produced as well. The whole you know, everything that we do is very much DIY. I think we take some pride in the fact that we do everything ourselves and don't ever spend any money on anything. And
Yeah, we've never been given a budget for anything. It's all come out of our own pockets. We're basically just broke because no, it's not really. But yeah, we just work around the limitations really, which is it's actually quite sort of liberating. I think if we knew that we had endless like options and budget and funding, we probably wouldn't get anything done because we just sat thinking, well, what are we actually going to do? The fact that
so it's always a, you know, like a nice challenge to try and pull something out of the bag, basically.
like
And I think that
bundling Ollie into the back of my car with a camera and making him film loads of buildings while I drove around was basically how we had to make that. So there's no other way of doing it.
you've
yeah.
just recently produced some merch, haven't you? A T-shirt that you just came out with. How do you feel about that?
Well, that was we've worked with the same artist designer since day one, basically. A really good friend of ours called George Bagley, and he's worked on all of our artwork, worked through kind of all of our stupid ideas for visuals, and I don't know, he's great. It was just another opportunity to ask him to do something, and it's also always nice being able to get someone that you know is making artwork for us on a pretty regular basis, but being able to produce stuff that's being made physically is obviously a little bit more rewarding because it actually exists as a tangible object. And we'd only done one t-shirt before, and we realized that we should probably do some more because that's how you make money as a band.
Well, that was always our thing, wasn't it? Because we always said that when we were doing releases and stuff, that we always wanted the sort of releases and things to be physical. Like we wanted to be records and CDs, like actual tangible objects, because that would be it gets it tied into our name. It also proves that we kind of existed. Just doesn't get lost in the sort of.
I think it's also a good way to interact with your fans as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
For sure. I think also, like, I don't know, maybe it's totally the wrong stance to be taking, but I think it's just the realistic one, that there's just, you know, digital music has hit a zero value basically, and I think that the best thing we can do is just make it available for people to listen to if they want to, and hope they engage with us. If they engage with the music, then they can, you know, support us by buying physical things or not. But yeah.
I have a couple more questions. The first is, what advice would you give to a newcomer who was starting out in just creating their own music?
Angus?
I think mine would be, I guess, it's like I think don't rush it too much and kind of have a think about what it is that you want to make and the kind of sounds you want to go for. I think some people just kind of feel like they have to just get something out straight away and sort of seek some sort of validation. But I think you should just spend a bit of time with your own tunes and sort of workshop them a little bit. And
for sure, I don't want to come across as sounding like overly cynical, but I think it's, you know, unbelievably easy to present yourself as a you know, as a musician or an artist or anything nowadays, with the platforms that everyone has available to them, and also just the ease of access to technology. You can make yourself look and sound legit on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever quite easily. So I suppose if you want to have any sort of impact, just, you know, remember that the most important thing is I don't know, the work that you're producing.
Yeah, I think the other thing I'd add to that is, like, you know, use a bit of hardware. You know, use some stuff that isn't just easily available to you on a computer. I think if the moment you start like moving some waves, or you start using some like analog kit, I think it definitely gives you a different sound, as opposed to hearing the same old sort of plugins that you've heard on digital audio workstations. You know, I mean, I know that people might not agree with me on that, and that might be a contentious thing to say, but it is good to use some real kit, because
I think broadly what you're saying is just try and find a unique sound, basically something that people will identify with you. And an easy way to do that is to forego the usual inbuilt plugins that you might just find on Logic or whatever, and don't know, pick up a weird old keyboard that has like one decent preset amongst loads of shit ones. And you're away.
I also want to ask you about gigs. Do you have a particularly memorable gig or favorite performance that you've done?
I think basically, I mean, Ollie might disagree, but I think he probably wouldn't. I think we've always had a lot of fun going to Europe and sort of playing in we went to Spain a few times and we really enjoyed that. Sort of playing in France was always great. But I think they were particularly good because we were just sort of driving around, like eating loads of cheese, just having quite like nice holiday with your mates, really.
Yeah.
Not saying that we don't like playing in the UK. I think it's just it always feels a bit more exciting when you go somewhere else where you don't usually live. So, but then having said that, we always did enjoy sort of before we both ended up living in London. We always used to enjoy sort of driving into London, playing a gig, and then driving home. We driving through the middle of the night to get back, and then getting home at 4 a.m. It always felt like, oh, this is interesting, quite enjoyable.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous, especially like the number of gigs that we used to play in, like, when we first started out, 2013 and 14, because Angus was living down in Plymouth and I was in Bournemouth. So we'd have a gig on a Friday night and Angus would like bomb it back after he finished work and then pick me up, and then we'd drive on through to Shoreditch or wherever it was, and turn up like late for sound check and like play a half-hour set and hang around for a bit and then like go home. It was like madness, really. But then
we basically just annoyed every promoter in London for like 2 years because we never turned up to anything on time, or when we did, we were sort of knackered and covered in McDonald's. And
I suppose it didn't help that we told everyone that we were London based when it couldn't be further from the truth.
that was a poor idea, but we couldn't work out where we just thought, well, we don't really know where we're from, and
we didn't have a base. We still don't really have one.
No,
because I'm based in London now, and Angus is in Bristol, obviously. So
yeah, we sort of mix it up a bit.
We meet now and do our work at Cheveley Services.
The sound of the M4.
So that's all the questions, guys. So thanks for taking the time out to actually do this interview, and all the best for all your future projects.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.